Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar on funding opportunities within CCUS, hydrogen, and renewable fuels. Apologies for the delay in us getting started here. My name is Alex Krauka. I am a Seattle-based consultant for the U.S. Energy Association, particularly for USEA's Consensus Program. Which for those of you who may not be familiar, the Consensus Program is a cooperative agreement with the Department of Energy's Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management that seeks to educate the public, policymakers, industry, and other stakeholders to build a consensus on the benefits of and requirements for carbon capture, utilization, sequestration, and other carbon management technologies, such as carbon dioxide removal, methane emissions mitigation, sustainable development, sustainable and domestic development of rare earths and critical minerals, development of blue hydrogen, and the like. Most of what falls under FECM's umbrella, we seek to support them with. We do this through a variety of activities, such as briefings and today's webinar. We do workshops. We work with a few of our partners to put out various research reports and white papers. And then we also have a monthly news clips to help keep our stakeholders informed. If you are not already on our mailing list, please feel free to email my colleague, Michelle Littlefield at mlittlefield@usea.org. A quick logistics note for today. We are obviously on Zoom. And this webinar is being recorded. We will plan to post the recording on our event page in the coming days. We will hold off on Q&A until after the presentation. However, please feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to enter any questions or comments that you may have. So the agenda for today and our speakers for today, we're joined by Dr. Aaron Fuller, carbon conversion utilization engineer at DOE's Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management. And we're also joined by Dr. Åge Stenglund, special advisor to the Research Council of Norway, and then Matt Antes, who's the acting director for engagement at FECM. And we will actually start in reverse order of our speaker pictures. We'll start with Matt to discuss DOE's international collaborations. Then we'll go with Dr. Stenglund to discuss funding opportunities within CCS or CCUS, hydrogen, and renewable fuels. And we'll finish off with Dr. Fuller discussing DOE's national requirements for the CETP Joint Call 2023. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and stop my slideshow and pass the mic over to Matt.
Thank you, Alex. And share my screen here. And can you see that okay? Title slide?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. And thank you all so much for joining us today for this informational webinar on the Clean Energy Transition Partnership Funding Opportunities Joint Call. This is focused on Transition Initiative 3, TRI 3, and includes the call modules for carbon capture, utilization, and storage, CCUS, and hydrogen and renewable fuels. My name is Matt Antes. I'm the acting director for engagement at the Office of Carbon Management at DOE. So for this informational session, I'm going to kick us off with some groundwork, with a framing about FECM's motivations for international cooperation. And I think it's instructive to first consider, when thinking of motivations for FECM in international context, the overall vision and mission for the office. As you may know, so FECM, Fossil Energy and Carbon Management, recently went through the most significant reorganization since its inception about 45 years ago. And along with that, a name change, one that now includes carbon management, which reflects the office's focus on emissions reductions to get us all the way to net zero emissions, including some of the most challenging parts of the economy, and removing excess CO2 already in the air, the legacy emissions. From a high level national GHG emission kind of standpoint, the goals provide guiding targets: 50% emissions reduction by 2030 compared to 2005, CO2 emissions free power sector by 2035, and net zero emissions economy wide by 2050. So the strategic areas of focus for FECM can be grouped broadly into three categories. So first, here on the left is carbon management. So as fossil fuels are used today for energy generation for all sorts of sectors, we have to develop strategies to avoid emissions from entering the atmosphere, and not just from combustion of fossil fuels. Several industries, as you know, cement, steel, chemicals, and others, emit CO2 from chemical transformations, process emissions. And of course, carbon capture, utilization, and storage plays an essential role for decarbonizing these sectors. Carbon management also includes taking CO2 back out of the atmosphere, and there are a range of different approaches for doing this. But the role for these CO2 removal approaches is to counterbalance those emissions that are really hard to avoid, like from agriculture and aviation. The next piece in the center here is about how we are dependent on critical minerals for the clean energy systems driving our energy transitions, and extracting those minerals in a way that's most sustainable way possible. And we are still dependent on fossil fuels today, not just in the US, but globally. And as we extract fossil fuels, it consumes energy and sometimes leakage of methane associated with the supply chain, particularly at well sites. So FECM is focused on technologies to quantifying these emissions and mitigating them. Thirdly is recognition that FECM mainly sponsors R&D, and some of that R&D will lead to demonstrations and ultimately deployment. And we recognize that this puts technologies into communities. This strategy area involves understanding the impacts on communities, thinking about this when technologies are still at the R&D stage, how this can lead to benefits. This also includes community engagement and workforce transitions. Internationally, this involves working with governments, academia, research institutes, private sector partners, working together and understanding lessons from our partners. Our international collaborative work overlaps all three of these areas: engagement, carbon management, and sustainable resources. So the overarching mission of the Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management is to minimize the environmental and climate impacts of fossil fuels from extraction to use. So working towards those net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. To this end, FECM has 7 priority technology areas as shown here. So our research, development, and demonstration investments in each of these areas seek to improve the performance and drive down costs, and at the same time provide resources to support the level of deployment and scale up that models tell us are needed to reach net zero emissions goals, while working with communities to ensure responsible scale up. So, and you can see from these areas, FECM focuses particularly on hard to decarbonize areas, applications, including some in the electricity sector, fuels, and industry. So when considering the key drivers and its interplay internationally, it's important to recognize domestically in the US, the enormous influence of the bipartisan infrastructure law. This passed about 2 years ago and provided $62 billion over 5 years to the Department of Energy for research, development, demonstration, and deployment of a whole range of climate essential technologies. And within that, there was more than $12 billion for carbon management technology and infrastructure, and $8 billion for hydrogen deployments. By far the largest investments by any government in the world in these areas. For some perspective on the importance of these technologies from an international viewpoint, this is a figure from the International Energy Agency's Net Zero Roadmap. This was updated just a couple of weeks ago and released by the IEA. There's a few points I wanted to note in this figure that I captured from the latest report. So one is you'll notice the magnitude. So the scale on the left here goes up to 1,000 million tons per year, which is 1 gigaton CO2 per year. And this time frame, so this is globally, and this time frame is by 2030. And this is in order to stay on track for net zero by 2050. 1 gigaton per year is a significant contributor to emissions reductions. And these are focused on the hardest to abate sectors like heavy industry. So one is the magnitude. And the second thing to look at here is the rate of increase. We're at about 45 million tons per year captured globally now, and going from 45 to 1,000 million tons per year in 7 years is an enormous challenge. And this chart only extends to 2030. The IEA scenarios include more than 6 gigatons or 6,000 million tons per year captured in 2050. So the second thing is the rate of increase. And third thing to notice here is the important role in both advanced and emerging economies. Nearly half of the capture occurs in emerging markets, underscoring this need for international engagement and cooperation between countries and regions in these technology areas, not just in technology R&D, but also on the deployment side. So back to the question of drivers for our priority setting for international collaborative work, and there are several. As I mentioned earlier, developing and deploying climate technologies, it's a global challenge and it requires concerted global actions. And more specifically, international cooperation enables more efficient use of resources. It accelerates timelines for new innovations. And so when FECM coordinates with governments and organizations globally, researchers like you can share pre-competitive work based on the respective expertise at each facility or institutions in those areas, and we can avoid unnecessary duplication. Also, working with global partners facilitates knowledge transfer on the latest developments, what is working and what isn't in different contexts, and this can drive down technology costs faster. We've seen this actually with other low carbon technologies as well, several examples of this where innovation and cost reductions in one country also help to significantly reduce the costs of development and deployment globally. Third, international partnerships help open avenues for foreign investment and access to new markets, crowdsourcing. And international cooperation increases awareness of major advances being made by researchers, and this helps increase the likelihood of interest from funders and a movement into higher technology readiness levels and commercialization uptake. So CETP, it's an important example of international collaboration in the form, in this case, of joint R&D. It allows researchers to work with international counterparts, bringing together public and private stakeholders across continents in the research and innovation ecosystems. For FECM, it enables us to extend the impact of our R&D funding. It's a classic example of collaboration that avoids cross-border duplication of effort and thereby allows us to, for our limited funding, to go farther. Besides joint R&D, FECM also participates in several other international collaborative efforts. As you can see here, some examples include the Clean Energy Ministerial, the CCUS initiative under that, which recently added Germany as its 15th country member, so it's great participation in that initiative. Mission Innovation CDR Removal Mission, of which both the Clean Energy Ministerial Initiative and Mission Innovation Mission are co-led by the United States. And we are members of the Asia CCUS Network, APEC Energy Group, the Global CCS Institute, the IEA Greenhouse Gas Program, and others. So let me just conclude by expressing my appreciation for joining us today and for your interest in this joint R&D opportunity and helping FECM increase the efficiency and impact of our R&D investments through this international collaborative effort. So with that, let me turn it back over, I believe, to Alex. You take it over.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt. Really appreciate hearing the plethora of international engagement that FECM is undertaking. I think, as you mentioned, incredibly important for the world to meet its decarbonization goals. The world is going to need to work together on these tasks. It's going to be more than just a individual effort on our part. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Åge Stengeland, Special Advisor for the Research Council of Norway, and Accelerating Carbon Capture and Storage Technologies Coordinator for the Clean Energy Transition Partnership. Dr. Stengeland, you are already sharing your screen, so thank you for doing that, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for this opportunity to present the CETP, the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, and the new call that we have published recently. First of all, this is the topics I will touch upon today. And first of all, a brief introduction to this new platform, CETP. Then I will present the CETP Joint Call, and at the end I will say a few words about the matchmaking, how you can team up with other CCS experts to build a consortium and submit an application. And in the end also time for question and answers. But first of all, Clean Energy Transition Partnership. This is a partnership of national funding agencies. There are about 50 funding agencies from 30 countries that has joined forces. And our ambition is to boost and accelerate the energy transition. And the way we are doing this is to set up annual calls for research, development, and innovation applications. And this slide is just to show the structure of this platform. At the top, we have a management team. The whole thing is coordinated by funding agencies in Austria and Sweden. And we have built a structure with what we call transition research initiatives. We have divided ourselves into 7 different initiatives, and you can see all of them here. Number 1 is energy systems. Number 2 is zero emission power. And number 3 is the main topic of today, CCUS, hydrogen and renewable fuels. And the next are heating and cooling, regional energy systems, industrial energy systems, and buildings. And our first call was set up last year, and that ended up with 46 new projects that are starting this autumn. And we have also published the new joint call, and that is open now for applications, and we will go into detail on that. You will find the call text at the CETP website, and there's a long link listed here. My slides can be available for everybody afterwards, so you can find the link to the call. And the call has been separated into 10 different call modules. And US project partners can apply for funding within 2 of the call modules. And that is, of course, the call modules on CCUS and the one on hydrogen and renewable fuels. There is a deadline for submitting pre-proposals, 22nd of November at 1400 Central European Time. Just make sure that the time zones do not confuse you. And we will invite the best pre-proposals to submit full proposal. And then the deadline will be 27th of March next year. This is a list of the 10 different call modules, and I have highlighted the 2 where DOE has budget available. So US partners can apply for call module number 4 on CCUS and call module number 5 on hydrogen and renewable fuels. And before we say too much about the call text itself, just briefly mention the key eligibility criteria. there are quite many eligibility criteria, but it's important to be aware of some of them that are quite important. First of all, in order to have a consortium, you need to have eligible partners from at least 3 of the different CETP countries. So you need to team up with CCS or hydrogen or renewable fuel experts from in total 3 countries. You should aim at the projects at technology readiness level 5 to 9. You should move up the TRL scale during your project, and you should end at TRL between 5 and 9. But in a project, we will allow certain work packages or certain tasks at lower TRL if the project in total ends up at TRL 5 to 9. Please also keep in mind that there are different national eligibility criteria in all participating countries. So for you, it will be important to read the US national eligibility criteria in detail. And those eligibility criteria are included in the call text, and Aaron Fuller will present them later on today. When it comes to the call itself, I will first speak on the call module number 4 on CCUS, and the next slide will be on call module 5 on hydrogen and renewable fuels. But when it comes to CCUS, it's a quite wide thematic call module, and we are open for projects within the capture, transport, utilization, and storage of CO2. And the objective is to facilitate the emergence of CCUS technologies via funding of transnational projects. And if you look at the scope listed here, selected projects will have to support the emergence of CCUS primarily in the industrial sector and also in the energy sector. And we open up for applications within CO2 capture from energy intensive or heavy industry. We would like to see applications that can advance lower cost CO2 capture technologies. We open up for application within CO2 storage. We are also interested in applications that can enable CCUS technologies with emphasis on utilization. Transport and injection of CO2 is also important, and also reuse of existing energy assets for the purpose of CCUS. And also the last bullet here, negative emission technologies are also within the scope. The expected impact is that the project should have a significant contribution to the green transition by accelerating the CCUS technologies. All projects must advance the state of the art for CCUS and contribute new knowledge and new competence that brings CCUS closer to commercialization. And if you see at the bottom of the page, project consortia, as I said earlier, you need partners from 3 of the CETP countries. And in addition, you need to demonstrate the interest by industry by actively involving industry as a partner in the project. That doesn't mean that it has to be a US industrial partner, but you need to have an industrial partner from any country involved in your consortium just to demonstrate that your project is of industrial interest. And again, TRL between 5 and 9, but you can have certain tasks or VPs at lower TRL. So I will move on to the next call module on hydrogen and renewable fuels. And the objective here is technological development, demonstration, and deployment of renewable and synthetic fuels production, including hydrogen and also energy storage. And the scope here is, again, international projects targeting technological solutions for end users with innovative projects that can contribute, support, or provide results to future or already existing pilots and demonstration installations. And we open up for projects within hydrogen technologies, renewable fuels, also including renewable ammonia, also end-use applications and cross-cutting issues. And the expected impact should be projects that have a significant impact on promoting the deployment of new and cost-efficient technologies with a significant contribution to the green transition to be important contributions to climate neutrality by 2050. The project consortia is open for research organization, higher education institutions, and industry. And public and private organizations, NGOs, are also welcome to be included in your consortia. And the TRL are again 5 to 9, with some tasks of VPs that could be at a lower technology readiness level. I'm now moving into matchmaking, upcoming events, and contact points. And at our website, you will find all documents that are related to the joint call. That includes the call text itself. It includes all the national eligibility criteria from all countries. And there's also a tab at the webpage called Join Our Community that you can see to the right here. If you click that one, you will get a list of events that are being planned. And one event will take place 24th and 25th October. That is the CETP annual conference. That is an online event where you can get very good information about what CETP is all about. You will get information about the upcoming call, and you will also hear about the new project that has just been funded by CETP. Furthermore, there is a matchmaking functionality at our web page. And by signing in and establishing your own profile, you can get in contact with many hundred others that have done the same. This matchmaking platform has the possibilities for finding other CCS experts that works in the same field as you. So this could be a good platform or a good tool for building a consortium. Furthermore, we have newsletters that can be recommended, and you can sign up to them from at the web page again. And contact points for the 2 listed call modules. That is myself. I mainly work on CCUS. If you are interested in hydrogen and renewable fuels, the contact point is Isabel Caprita from Portugal and Lena Höck from Germany. And in addition, national contact points. And you will hear from Aaron Fuller afterwards. And I know that Darren Damiani and Andrew Lasko is present here today. But you will find all DOE contact points listed in the call text. And key messages, just to summarize everything: the call text available at our website. And US partners can apply for funding within the call modules for CCUS, hydrogen, and renewable fuels. Keep in mind the deadline for pre-proposals, 22nd of November. And if you send us a good pre-proposal, you will be invited to submit a full proposal by 27th of March next year. And you need to have partners from at least 3 of the CETP countries in order to have an eligible consortium. And my best advice to you is to read the call text carefully, and especially the last one here, read the national annexes carefully. And the last one, I would like to emphasize that one, because if you end up with partners from a lot of the other CETP countries, all of them will face different national eligibility criteria, and all your partners need to read the national annexes carefully. And you will hear more about the US national requirements very soon. And I will be available for questions and answers. But should we do that now, or would you like to wait until after all the presentations, Alex?
Dr. Songlin, thank you so much. I know it's a little bit later on your end than it is on ours. So if you'd like, we could take a couple of questions now, or we can wait until after Aaron's presentation.
Yeah, I will stay in until Aaron's presentation as well. But if there are any questions, yeah, feel free.
I don't see any that have come in yet. Here we go. Is TRL 5 through 9 the final TRL or starting TRL?
Final TRL.
Thank you. And I know I had received a separate email asking about the recording for today's webinar. So just as a reminder, the recording will be posted on our event page, which I will put into the chat in a moment here.
Yep.
And just
That's
give
good.
us a day or two to do so. See, one more. Are there other opportunities for U.S. partners?
Well, for the moment, DOE has decided to put budget into these two core modules that I presented. So if you would like to take part in consortia applying for the other core modules, you can do so, but then you have to contribute with in-kind and own finances. There are no public money available then.
Great, thank you. And then one more question: is there a minimum starting TRL, which I believe is 5, but correct me if I'm wrong.
We haven't set a starting technology readiness level. We just say that you have to end on between 5 and 9, and you also have to climb the TRL scale. But where you start, that is up to you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. And with that, it looks like we'll move on to Aaron. Again, Dr. Stangeland, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time to discuss these partnership opportunities. A lot of them out there, and really exciting to see the funding that's available for this great work.
Yep.
So with that, I'll pass it on to Dr. Aaron Fuller, carbon conversion engineer in the Division of Carbon Conversion in the Office of Carbon Management Technologies and DOE's Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management. So Aaron, you're already sharing your screen. Thank you for doing that. The floor is yours. But you are muted.
Hello, good morning. I would like to thank everyone for joining our presentation this morning or afternoon, wherever you are. As Alex said, I'm Aaron Fuller. I will be presenting in detail DOE's FECM's national requirements to participate in the 2 call modules you just learned about for the CET program. Just a table of contents, I will give some general information which was already provided, and then the national requirement specifics. As you know, the CETP, as Agi just mentioned, is partnership of national and regional research development in the European member states and associated countries. The US is one of the associated countries. And as Matt already mentioned earlier, it's aiming to boost and accelerate the energy transition. So this is done through setting up annual calls for research development and innovation applications. And the 2 call modules that we are providing funds for in the DOE was already mentioned. As you see here, that's the carbon capture, utilization, and storage, and hydrogen with renewable fuels. Once again, I'll just reiterate this, the importance of meeting these deadlines, because once the deadline has passed, you will not have a chance to submit your proposal, pre-proposal, or full proposal. So always keep those dates and times in mind. And as you always know, to submit your final proposal or pre-proposal well in advance in case there's any technical issues or anything like that with the submission process. All right, as Matt already mentioned to you earlier, our participation in such platforms help support the goals that we have here in the US, 50% reduction by 2030 economy-wide, carbon neutral power sector, and carbon neutral economy. So pretty much those goals are set in stone. Our US DOE national contact points for the different areas we're in are listed here. For carbon storage and transport, Darren Damiani. Hydrogen with carbon management, that's Robert Schreckengos. Myself for carbon conversion or utilization, and Andrew Halasco for point source carbon capture. Our funding commitment for participation for the Joint Call 2023 from the CETP platform is a total of approximately $6 million US. And that is divided in the $2 million for carbon capture, $2 million for transport and storage, $1 million for conversion utilization, and $1 million for hydrogen. So that's the total amount that we will be funding the projects for this call and term. And we anticipate to have between like 6 to 12 total projects, depending on the applications and the project's fund request and what we're able to give out. But however, it's very important to note the maximum funding per award project per partner is $1 million for each call module for each project. That's the maximum funding. So when you, and this maximum funding only applies to the USEA participants within the project. So everyone, this will include all the participants total within the project from all maximum funding for the awarded project. All right, the call is open to national laboratories and their public or private research partners. So that can be any one of the DOE national laboratories and their research partners, whether it be a university, research institute, and so forth. And the main US partner must be one of the designated DOE national laboratories. So that means that the national laboratory must receive most of the funds and things like and things associated with that. As you already know, we're in call module 4, carbon capture utilization, carbon capture storage, CO2 transport, and call module 5, hydrogen and renewable fuels. The detailed information about our specific R&D areas of interest from FECM can be found in the DOE-FECM strategic vision. And it's very important to note that if your pre-proposal or proposal does not align with these strategic visions and the call module 4 or 5, your proposal will be ineligible for consideration. So your proposal will have 2 eligibility checks. Augie mentioned an eligibility check that's for the CETP platform and requirement itself, and then DOE will have the national eligibility check for all the proposals that are seeking funding from the DOE. And it's important that you understand this and don't submit a proposal to a different call module or something that's not either call module 4 or call module 5, because that proposal or pre-proposal will not be considered eligible and will not be considered. This was already mentioned earlier by Matt, and your proposal, of course, must meet the DOE strategies defined in our strategic vision, and also as defined in the USDA Technology Readiness Assessment Guide. And these are, in this presentation, those are links to those guides. It's also very important to note that United States applicants must meet all eligibility criteria, but also we encourage you, but it's not required, to include scope and budget for making project data available to the international research community through the CO2 data share portal. This is a recommendation or encouragement. It's not a requirement, but it will also help in areas in trying to move these technologies forward. Ineligible costs for United States applicants for projects can also be found in the DOE Guide to Financial Assistance. So the funding rates are for national laboratories are 100%. And then the national laboratories, as noted earlier, may have subcontractors, their private partners, industry partners, research organizations or institutes, and so forth. However, the national laboratory must and has to be the main project partner and must be the person that submit the proposal from the US side. Thank you. I hope that answered your questions. If you have any questions, look forward to answering them during our Q&A session. Thank you very much for your attention.
Great. Thank you so much, Aaron. Really appreciate you discussing DOE's requirements for this joint call. With that, we're going to go ahead and open up the floor for questions and comments. So the first one that came in, the EU says projects should aim at for TRL 5 through 9. However, DOE's TRL was 3 through 6. Can you kind of clarify the difference there?
Yes, the TRL 5 through 9 represents the CETP mission goals and platforms. TRL 3 to 6 is our normally funding range for our projects within the DOE. So we normally don't fund projects, say 7 and above, which is really for commercialization efforts. Those are normally done with OSET. However, if you have work within the overall project has to be 5 to 9, but if you have work, as Augie noted, lower than 5, so yeah, that would still be funded for DOE. That is to let people know that if your work within the Department of Energy's part of the project is lower than 5, we expect it to be like 3 and above, say that. So that would be funded, but the overall project, when it's completed, has to be at level TRL 5 and 9 from all the project partners.
Got it. Thank you for that. Now, a couple questions coming in about the funding amounts. So I'm going to kind of combine 2 questions into one. Is the $1 million budget for all partners or just U.S. partners? And then the follow-on to that, can you please explain the total cost of the project? Is the $1 million total including the CETP and USA partners, or is it $1 million for the national laboratory? And can it be an additional over the $1 million for the CETP partners?
Yes, the 1 million is only for the US partners. So you can have a project, say, submitted from all your CET partners, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 million. But from the US side, the 1 million maximum is for the US partners. And what was the other part of the question? Oh yes, that goes to the national laboratory, and then they will have their subcontractors. They will distribute out the subcontract funds. I think that answered those questions, right?
I believe so. If it wasn't clear, please feel free to ask a clarifying question in the Q&A. What are the IP sharing requirements under this program between private entities and national labs?
Whoa, that's a good question. The cooperative agreements, these are done by the consortium, and the national labs are encouraged and told to follow their already process for their international collaborations for IP. And this consortium agreement has to be done by the whole CETP platform or project partners within the project, and you guys have to come into that agreement regarding IP and things of that nature and sort. And the national labs they're already established protocols for that, and they will use the same one. However, because these are much larger and bigger projects, sometimes these can take a longer time to finalize, these cooperative agreements, especially being international cooperative agreements. But they has to be agreed between all the project partners. And I believe the CETP call management may give some recommendation, but normally that's left up to the project consortium to determine and to go through with their own, say, legal counsel at their own organizations or institutions.
Got it. Thank you. And then speaking of the national labs, is there a mechanism for companies to partner with them?
Sure, that's depend upon the national lab and the project. And as Augie mentioned, industrial partners and companies are highly desirable and recommended because this help bring technologies to a higher scale and to market faster.
So a number of mechanisms then to partner with the national labs, correct?
Yes, depend on the national lab's own strategies and procedures for that.
Got it. Thank you. And then you provided Andrew Lasco as the contact person for point source CO2 capture, but nobody as the contact person for direct air capture. Is there such a person, or is DAC outside of the scope?
Yes, we do have, DAC is not outside of the scope. We do have a contact person for DAC if that's necessary and needed, that will be provided, but that's not outside of the scope. Augie can speak more to the DAC scope.
Yeah, I can just say that DAC is within the scope for this call. So we are very interested in application within DAC.
So thank you for that question. So I will make sure that we update that contact point for DAC.
Great, thank you. And then a question around the funding amounts and their origin. Is funding coming only from the US or anywhere else? It's, I believe, both the US as well as Europe, but Aaron, go ahead.
Funding for the US partners to participate in these projects come only from the US. So you only receive funds from the DOE to participate in the CETP projects. And other project partners will receive funding from their own national bodies. So each country has a national body to fund their own, say, organizations, entities, and research people and research institutions within their own country. So ours come from the DOE here in the United States to participate in the 2 call modules that you just were told about, call module 4 and call module 5.
Got it. So it depends on where your company is based, then that will determine where your funding comes from.
Correct. Everything based in the US that applies will come from the DOE. Outside the US will come from the country from where they're from.
Great, thank you. And then staying on kind of the funding note, is the funding focus for both the CETP and DOE through these calls on trials and demonstrations, or will funding for FEED studies and other earlier stage engineering be considered?
The funding will be considered based upon, say, the project description, statement of work within the project objectives, as long as they fall within call module 4 and call module 5, and within the FECM strategic vision for US partners participation.
Perfect, thank you. With that, I'm not seeing any other questions, so we'll just give it another moment or two.
Okay, if there's not any other questions, then I would say Darren, he's the POC for carbon transporter storage. He's here. If he wants, he can come in. And Andrew Halasco is the POC for point source carbon capture. He can provide any comments if he wants. And Ava Rodenzo is the POC for hydrogen and renewable fuels online. So either of them, if they have any further comments, please feel free to just add or make any statements you desire. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. This is Andrew Klasko. I work for the Point Source Carbon Capture Group at the U.S. Department of Energy. And we are definitely interested in projects that address point source capture, either power plants, natural gas, combined cycle, and also in industrial sources. So industrial is a big focus for DOE, and we would certainly encourage applicants to submit proposals for that.
Great, thank you, Andrew. In the meantime, we did have another question come in. The first 2 calls are for labs. Is this planned for the future as well?
It's also a good question. As of now, yes, but that may change. So it's very important to just follow each call as it come out. That's something we would discuss as we evaluate our, say, participation and contribution to this program and platform.
Perfect. And then I see Darren, you've jumped on. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Darren Damian. I'm the Carbon Storage Program Manager at DOE's Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management. Thank you, Aaron, for all that explanation. Really appreciate that. Just want to make one small, kind of echoing what Aaron said, maybe clarify a point. So as Aaron pointed out, DOE funding goes to DOE organizations and the other countries fund their research organizations. So there's no cross-country funding flow. Each country funds their researchers. for us, our funding is going to the national laboratories, as Aaron explained. That mechanism is something called a field work proposal, and all of the funding will go through that field work proposal. You can partner with a national laboratory, as Aaron had pointed out. This would be considered a subcontract, but the prime has to be a national laboratory. Now, this is somewhat contradictory to what Aaron had said, and perhaps this is true for conversion and for capture, but for storage, the funding share does not necessarily have to be the majority to the national lab. They can subcontract to whatever extent they feel is necessary for the project. So if the majority of the funding is going to subcontracts and they keep a smaller percentage for themselves, from the storage perspective, that is fine. Anybody can reach out to any organization can reach out to a national laboratory and approach them with their proposal. So that's a point of negotiation between outside organizations, the national lab. But just to emphasize that they must be prime, they must name a principal investigator. However, that has to be true on paper. So if there are organizations that are partnering with national labs that are kind of taking a more leading role, I think that's perfectly fine. But in all representation of the project, it's the principal investigator must be a national lab person. I think that's all I wanted to clarify on it. As I said, I think Aaron said all that. I just wanted to re-emphasize if there's any questions about partnering with national laboratories. So thank you.
Great. Thank you for that, Darren. Question that came in, is there a list of national labs interested in these two calls?
Well, I mean, any of the national labs that have capacity, that have core competency for doing storage is fine. I can say that the national labs that the storage program has worked primarily with is Los Alamos National Lab, Lawrence Berkeley, Lawrence Livermore, Pacific Northwest, and Sandia. However, it's possible that Oak Ridge, Ames, and some of these others also have Idaho National Lab that have core competencies in storage. So I think there's no restriction on which national lab is approached, but those 5 that I had named have been the one most active in the storage space. But this could be different for Aaron and Andrew.
Hi, I agree with Darren. It's best to partner with the national lab that has the core competency in the topic area. That way you have a good chance of a higher level and quality proposal.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying that. One more question that came in. How are these multinational proposals going to be evaluated?
It's a very excellent question. That's one for Augie. I'll let Augie answer that one.
I can answer that one. All applications will be evaluated by international referees, and we will try to find the best experts all over the world. So there will be an independent evaluation of referees that have the key competence.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. I don't see any other questions or comments. I know we spent a decent amount of time answering some good questions that have come in. So it's exciting to see the engagement and interest in this program. We technically were scheduled to go until 11:15 Eastern. I think we may give everyone a few moments of their days back. This has been a great webinar. Okay, Aaron, Matt, thank you guys for taking the time to present to us some great opportunities here that I hope our attendees are able to take advantage of. As a reminder, we have been recording this webinar, and we will post the recording to our event page on usea.org, which I entered into the chat a little bit ago. Aaron, again, Matt, definitely want to give you an opportunity to say any last words. But thank you again.
Sure. Just want to say thank you everyone for your participation, and we hope everyone are enthused about what this opportunity presents to them and their networks. And we look forward to receiving your pre-proposals that are hopefully chosen for full proposals. Thank you again.
All right, thank you all, and please be on the lookout for our next event. And in the meantime, I hope everyone has a great rest of your week.